In this video, I'm going to take you through the steps that got me off of prescription medication and into full remission from colitis. Now, I realise colitis is a really difficult and complicated condition. I'm not trying to say that this is a miraculous cure for everyone, but if I could help one person by doing this, then I would be delighted. I'll try and keep the video as short as possible. I've got a pretty boring monotone voice, so I don't want to start ranting for any longer than I need to, because that's not going to be good for anyone. I'll put a load of links in the description below, so please check them out. But yeah, let's get into it. For anyone that doesn't know, colitis is an inflammatory bowel disease that affects the large intestine or the colon. The lining of the colon becomes inflamed and causes bleeding, mucus. Other symptoms would be pain and discomfort, especially down the left side, cramping, bloating, fatigue, and just generally feeling like shit. I've been through all of the above in the 9 years that I've suffered with it. Generally we go through 2 or 3 flares every year. For the most part it was kept under control with the typical drugs that they use, like mesalazine and prednisolone, but I always felt that it was just kind of masking the symptoms, and it was just a case of when the next flare would be. I never felt like I was really clear of it at all. So last year I was in the worst flare that I've ever experienced, and in total it probably lasted a good 7 months. At one point I was on budesonide foam, prednisolone, azathioprine and mesalazine, and this had absolutely no impact on my symptoms, and I was starting to worry. I didn't really want to go down the route of the biologics with the infusions or injections. I hadn't read or heard great things about some of the side effects of that. And then of course, if you can't get it under control, I mean, it's always at the back of your mind, at what point does surgery get entered into the conversation as well? And I just found myself thinking, fuck this. Like, there has to be a better way to get around this rather than committing yourself to a lifetime of medications. You know, all medication has a potential for some nasty side effects, especially for the use in treating colitis and inflammatory bowel disease. So this kind of led me to finding a website called stuffthatworks.com. This isn't just for people with colitis. They are a crowdfunded website, and they're set up to build a user base and find what are the best treatments for pretty much any illness or disease that you can think of. Really worth checking out if you're suffering with anything yourself. You basically get put into a chat room with other people that are suffering with the same thing, and this was a great relief for me. Just being able to share my experiences, reading about other people's experiences, and that helped kind of put things into perspective, and it was just nice to know that I wasn't going through this alone. This is where I started noticing people mentioning alternative treatments and therapies, and basically I would take note of these things and go away and do my own sort of reading and research. Basically started carrying out experiments on myself. So the first thing I want to mention is diet. Now, this is a hot topic. There's a lot of conflicting information, a lot of misinformation out there. I don't think there's any coincidence that the rise in autoimmune disease and dietary related illnesses like type 2 diabetes, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and obesity have gone up in correlation with the uptake in crap foods, basically, in our diet, what we now class as the typical Western diet or American diet. So I think it's worth considering. Our diet has a direct impact on our health, regardless of whether you suffer with colitis or not. And put simply, I think if you eat shitty foods, you are going to feel pretty shitty. Unfortunately, it's not a quick fix, and it's not, there is no one prescribed diet that can cure or help everyone, because everyone has different tastes for a start, but I bet everyone that has a bowel problem has their own sort of personal list of foods that can trigger and aggravate symptoms. So it does take a bit of time to kind of figure out, but I noticed there was a diet got mentioned a lot called the specific carbohydrate diet. So it's basically cutting out pro-inflammatory foods like grains and starchy veg. I found it a little difficult to begin with, just to adjust. I actually found it hard to get enough calories in. I'm quite active and have a physical job, and yeah, it took a wee while to get used to, but I did start seeing improvements over the course of probably 2 months. The biggest thing that made that last bit of difference, that had me feeling like I was no longer on a tightrope with what I was eating, because you know, every week there was always a day or two where I knew I just wasn't quite right, and there was something a little irritating. I started following the advice of Dr. Paul Saladino. He goes by the name of Carnivore MD on Instagram. Really interesting guy, all backed up by science. What he is saying is that vegetables, your leafy greens and root vegetables, all contain naturally occurring defense chemicals that upset the gut. And I know this sounds a bit crazy. It kind of goes against everything that you're brought up to believe is correct about nutrition. But when I cut out veg, this made such a difference. So now I'm eating a lot of meat, organ meat, heart and liver, and just the carbs that I would be getting from veg, I now have just replaced with fruit. So I'm eating about 400 to 500 grams of fruit a day, and it's amazing the difference. Everything's just leveled out for me now, and it's just a great way to eat, to be honest. It's just a bit weird when you have to explain this to people that you don't eat veg anymore, but definitely worth a try. Definitely check him out. He's quite funny. I think he puts the message across really well. So yeah, check that out. The second thing I'm going to mention, and this had the most significant impact and the quickest results, literally an overnight sensation, Qing Dai, or natural indigo, it's also known as. This is traditional Chinese medicine. It's a plant extract, and it comes in a really fine blue powder that I was filling into gelatin capsules. There's a number of recent studies done looking at the specific treatment of colitis using this stuff. Qing Dai has been shown to reduce the inflammatory response in the body and helps repair the mucosal lining of the gut. And the results are really quite impressive, very positive. The studies show the patients taking 2 grams a day for 8 weeks. Just anecdotally, I decided to take 3 grams a day for 3 months and then slowly tapered the dose down, and I had 0 side effects from that. It was totally fine. About a week in from starting that, I guess it was through a little impatience, but more so desperation, I thought, this isn't working. And I decided to use the powder, 0.5 grams of powder with 50 ml of distilled water, and use that as a retention enema. And this is what had the overnight success. The next day, the mucus had completely gone, and stool was actually formed like normal bowel movements. It was unbelievable. And you know, coming through a flare that I'd just been through, let me tell you that regaining the ability to fart without the fear of shitting yourself is quite a significant life achievement. Like, so I know it's not the nicest thing to talk about or to do, but if you feel like other things aren't working, then this is definitely worth trying. It's pretty easy to do. I had an old steroid enema bottle, and I just reused that. You can buy the correct sort of enema bulbs off the internet. The third thing that I think has really helped maintain this remission is the use of collagen supplements. The body uses the amino acids in collagen to maintain and repair soft tissue. So this is really quite a useful thing. If you're not getting enough collagen in your diet, then definitely worth exploring collagen supplements. There is another supplement called BPC 157. This may even have a more accelerated effect. There's a lot of athletes using it to overcome injuries because it repairs soft tissue really quick. So yeah, definitely read into that as well. I think it could really help a lot of people. And with that, I just want to say thank you very much for watching. If you know anyone that suffers with colitis, please share the link to this video with them. If you want to see me doing any other videos, then please leave a message below. I'm quite happy to go into more detail on certain things, or yeah, just cover some other topics related to colitis. So yeah, thank you very much and look after yourselves.